Hi, and welcome out to the Unscheduled podcast. I'm your host, Zach, along with the amazing, the awesome, the man you wish to be, co-host, Javi.
Hello, that's me. I'm Javi. And thank you, Zach, for the wonderful build-up. I appreciate it.
I decided I'd give it a try today. It has been a little bit since we got it to record, too.
Yeah, honestly.
But man, can you believe it? Episode 20, right here.
Yes, 20. We're not... The podcast isn't old enough to drink just yet, but
Nope.
it's getting there. Little sip. One more year. But yeah, this is we're gonna do a little update, right? At the beginning of the episode?
Yeah. So, you guys may have actually noticed this, but there have now been intro and outro music. We're going to continue to keep doing that for the episodes from now on, because, we thought it'd be nice instead of just immediately diving in, you guys have a little bit of an ease in and a little bit of an ease out. So we're going to be doing that from now on. And, when we change the music, we shall see. But complete transparency here. Just complete transparency.
Yeah, we didn't want you guys to feel like you were going crazy, like, oh, did they always have music in the episodes? Oh man, no way. Oh, so yeah, we just to let you guys know, like that's a thing that's gonna be happening from now on.
Yeah, so there's going to be a little bit more TLC going into these episodes, continuing from here. So
Absolutely,
yeah, I'm excited about it. I hope you guys are excited about it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this week, I had an interesting topic I wanted us to do. So I know this is, at the time of this recording, this story is already like a flash in the pan of the internet. Mm-hmm. But it got me thinking. So last week we saw trending on Twitter what was supposed to be Pokemon Masters EX. But the way Twitter puts things together in their hashtags and how they don't have a space between them, it looked like Pokemon Masters Sex. And
Hey.
And, the internet had a field day with it.
Oh, like going through the hashtag on Twitter was incredible. Really just like like Twitter takes something and it takes on a whole new life of its own. I think one of the wonderful aspects of it is like nothing escapes away from the clutches of Twitter fingers and their ability to just make something out of nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's honestly beautiful.
Meme Twitter is some of the funniest things I'll ever go through. But it was just like how quickly the memes were stacking up was just so funny to me because I saw Pokemon Masters trending. And then I was like, okay, I guess they released a new update. And then my feed just kept getting more and more Pokemon Masters EX and these jokes. And so I started going through the hashtag and everything. And I was like, oh, they messed up.
Yeah.
Oh, they messed up so bad.
That's why you want people who like understand the platform before you start making like campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because this would have been easily resolved. Honestly, if they had just like even though there's no spacing, like you can still capitalize words and
definitely. Had they capitalized it, it would have been way better.
Yeah.
Honestly, okay. I have a theory though. I feel like the person who tweeted this saw it. Either they knew this was going to happen, or they saw it afterwards and you were like, you know what? It's just let it play out.
I think the person who was doing this probably was desperate for some more Pokemon R34 and they just weren't finding enough of it on Google. And
oh my god.
Like they just couldn't find enough I'm not gonna get into my preference because I'm gonna sound degenerate. But you know what I mean.
Dude, you're staring into the abyss, and if you blink, there's no coming out of there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I shudder to think, what a person
that's where
would
we
think
end that.
Yeah. No more.
Anyway, so after seeing that, I don't really want to call it a fiasco. I'd rather call it a hiccup.
Yeah.
because there is far worse. But that's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Hell
So
yeah.
we're going to be talking about PR mistakes, funny incidences, and then just bad PR. We're not going to be
Mm.
okay. To clarify some of our rules, we're not getting into like the super controversial topics or like really tone deaf stuff. We're
Yeah.
just getting into like what is some bad PR and what was some of the funny things we've seen from it, and then like others that are just like really bad and clearly this company was not thinking.
Yeah. But then also there's the cases of just like willful ignorance or like naivete or like
Yeah.
literally just like malice and sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah. But we are going to be we're not, again, we're not getting into anything like superficial that dives down into a deeper problem. This is just PR mess up.
Yeah.
So, with that, Javi, I know you had one that, and it is one of my favorite ones, honestly, on this list.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Absolutely. Okay, so the Milwaukee Bucks is an NBA team, and actually, NBA teams recently have done this thing where they actually have esports teams that play in their NBA 2K leagues. Which, if you don't know what NBA 2K is, it's basically like FIFA but for NBA stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, anyways, the NBA 2K account, like the esports account for the Milwaukee Bucks, they held a contest for graphic designers to like make a banner for them. And obviously, this isn't like, it's a pretty standard practice for big companies to like hold contests and stuff like that for, graphic designers and stuff like
Right,
that.
right, right.
But here's the caveat
But
to that. The Bucks gaming account um did not offer a cash prize for the winning design, which, me personally, like this hits pretty home to me because like I love making designs and stuff like that.
right, right.
Regardless if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting
yeah.
paid for it or not. But like it's the Milwaukee Bucks. They're an NBA team. They're owned by
Yeah, they are
millionaires.
not,
Like,
for as much as, just real quick to go on a tiny tangent. Uh
mhm.
they are a professional sports team, even with the lack of money, due to COVID and everything. You
Yeah.
can't tell me they don't have a shit ton of money that they obviously like couldn't pay. I would have even said $1,000 is nothing to them. What, they make that on a night?
No, the Milwaukee Bucks makes millions from concessions every season.
Right, exactly.
They're
So $1,000 would have been nothing, and I'm just saying that
yeah,
as a random number to throw out there that
yeah,
could have
yeah.
been a cash prize.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. But like even then, it's like for me, like the for me, a contest really works more for like a company that's like independent or like a sort of like startup or something like that. Something that
Right,
isn't
right.
like a huge like presence, like not a
Yeah,
Fortune 100. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Fortune
Uh,
500. Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
get what you're saying.
You can't be the Milwaukee Bucks, who, as in recent years, has been one of the most successful franchises in the regular season, and ask graphic designers to do stuff for free.
No, you
Uh,
really can't. I don't know what they were thinking there.
but yeah. Anyways, so that was the initial mistake, was just asking people to do free work. Okay. So, but here's the thing, right? Is like, obviously graphic designers, a lot of people, been a huge like surge of movement, people like, hey, no, fuck you, pay me, which is the right mentality, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, hell
Um,
yeah.
and so a lot of people were like, submitting stuff, and then like, and here's the thing, right? It's like a lot of graphic designers actually made like joke like banners. So there's this one that actually looks really professional, but the text says no bucks for artists. And then
Oh,
and
that's
then this
really good. I like that
yeah
one. I really like
yeah
that one.
yeah and then this other one is also by a professional graphic designer, but his is literally just like an MS Paint. It says at Bucks Gaming, esports are our passion. Like the graphic design is my
Oh my
passion
god, I
meme,
love that.
and
I
then
really love that.
and also like a crude drawing of a basketball, and
Dude,
like
yeah. Yeah, this is easily one of my favorites just because of the initial response of
yeah
like, you don't mess with artists now because of how much they can meme you to hell.
yeah. But anyways, but the tweet that really fucked them over in this case was this one. Okay, so
Okay.
someone in the comments actually said, hey, bills can't be paid with merch, which that was one of their prizes was like a T-shirt, like a Milwaukee Bucks branded
Right.
T-shirt.
Right.
Anyways, someone said select and pay a designer the proper way, which in my opinion is true. Like, how can you possibly be such a big organization in the age of social media and not have a graphic designer in house? But anyways, that's beside the point.
Right.
Actually, no,
Okay.
that is the point. So Bucks
Right.
Gaming
Right.
actually replies to that saying, "Well, if that's the point, then get a job." That's what the Bucks Gaming said. They said get a job if you're
Wow.
if
Wow. You gotta be kidding
which
me.
which shows a complete lack of like sort of understanding of the value that artists
Right.
provide.
And then,
Like imagine like okay, let's look at this. Imagine if like the Bucks said that to like one of their broadcasters, right?
yeah.
Imagine if they said that to like literally like any of their staff that like did
Right.
any
Oh my God. That.
or a player or a coach, like that
Yeah.
makes no sense.
No,
Like
I
to
get
say,
that. I don't. That is one of the worst responses they could have given.
yeah.
Especially because
So
literally, like, graphic designing is the job they're having the contest for.
yeah, so not only are they like kind of like not in position to tell people to get a job because they don't have their own graphic designer, but also it
Yeah.
shows the complete disregard they have for the profession as a whole.
Right.
So
And
no,
so,
yeah, go ahead.
no. I was gonna ask what happened after that. Clearly, that response did not go over well. If they responded with that.
So essentially, it's not really clear what happened, but they basically just deleted the tweet and pretended nothing happened. And you don't even have to go to a PR class or have taken a PR course like we have to know
Yeah.
that's not the way to do things.
Right.
Um,
And that's neither here nor there. Honestly, that's just a shitty response.
yeah,
Easily.
honestly, like it's like essentially it's like getting ratioed on Twitter, deleting the tweet, and then just like pretending like nothing happened. Like that's exactly what happened. It's like they
Oh my
basically got
God. That
ratioed for
that
that
gets me
response.
heated when obviously there's no consequences for that.
Yeah, and
Like,
I'm assuming the admin probably faced no consequences for this because like they were still like tweeting about like they're like retweeting like people's like stuff like they're retweeting people's like submissions as if like
I
this whole thing was still okay. And yeah, I mean that got me really heated because like I said as I said before, I actually do like graphic design work as like a hobby.
yeah,
So
yeah.
um so I'm it doesn't really affect me in the way same way like an actual graphic designer does for
Right,
their
right. No,
job.
exactly. But
But
it's almost a mockery of the profession in a way.
absolutely, yeah. And as I said before, it just really highlights the fact that like people still don't, especially in like sort of more traditional media, don't really understand the role that digital artists provide to the
Yeah,
industry.
yeah.
And so yeah.
No, I'm 100% behind you on this. Like, I don't know why they thought that was even okay,
Hmm.
but they did that, and I'm just like, you can't do this. Like, there is something of just it is like a PR common sense. I'm not going to say it's common sense on a whole scale because people, different opinions, different thoughts, whatever. Not going to dive down that rabbit hole. But as a PR person, you have to try and not have a fire under your ass.
No, yeah, seriously.
I don't. I
And
don't
it's
know. I
especially
mean, for
that.
me, for me personally, I
Mhm.
definitely would have at least suspended the person who made that tweet.
Yeah.
Because at least as a company, you don't want that symbol on you. And I mean, obviously the Bucks are not going to have too much of an issue because clearly no one's protesting the Bucks or anything, or like,
No, yeah.
they're it's not as detrimental to them, but at least punish the person for the tweet.
No, yeah, seriously.
I
The
mean,
only No, go
yeah.
ahead.
No. I'm just saying, like, maybe had it been a higher up, it would have been even worse.
Yeah.
But because it's like, the faceless social media person, they
Right,
probably just
right.
got like a slap on the wrist. Or who knows, maybe something did happen to them behind the scenes that we are 100% unaware of.
Yeah, but there's really no way to confirm that because I don't think there's any
Right.
been really any update ever since that
Yeah.
initial like
And it's
tweet.
and it's not like people know who's tweeting this stuff out either.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Oh,
But
if they did, it'd be a whole different ball game.
oh
Whole
yeah,
different ball
which
game.
yeah. Hmm.
But along those lines, okay. So, I was researching through some of my stuff, and okay, I'm gonna warn people now. This I follow a lot more gaming news than I realized, and just a lot more gaming news than I follow regular news. Period.
Hmm.
But kind of the industry I want to work in, so eh. Um, but I did find one that was not gaming that I remembered. I don't know if people remember this, but it was so funny. And looking back, I even went back to watch the video and everything.
Hmm.
So, Javi, do you remember pre-corona when Elon Musk was just becoming more and more of a meme every day?
Yeah. A guy who smokes weed on a video podcast and loses millions in stock value. I know. I think I know who you're talking about.
I also forgot about that. And honestly, that could be argued to be bad PR or good PR in itself.
It was a bit of a split, but anyways, what were we gonna talk
Right.
about?
Right. Okay. So, do you remember the infamous slash famous Cybertruck?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened during the showcase?
If I remember correctly, he was advertising the fact that the Cybertruck had supposedly had like indestructible windows, and I think he
Right,
used
right,
some sort of object to try and like test it out, and it just immediately shattered without too much
right.
force.
So yeah, for those who don't know about the Cybertruck or never cared to follow up, Elon Musk had released this new quote unquote truck made by Tesla, Cybertruck, that was supposed to be like this futuristic design, which really just looked like more like a kid drew it, and then they called it a day.
Yeah,
Um, and he was like saying, "Oh, we're using all this rocket technology on this car. It's going to be amazing." And then we have windows that are supposedly like bulletproof and reinforced because yeah, people want that on their cars. I mean, sure, why not?
yeah,
And so during the announcement, I want to say it was the announcement or the something, like when they're talking in front of large crowds and trying to get
yeah,
investors
yeah.
and stuff.
Hmm.
He took a steel ball and chucked it at the window because he was trying to prove that it was bulletproof and stuff like that, or highly resistant, something like that.
Yeah,
And the window just shattered on impact.
yeah,
It just freaking shattered on impact, and like the moment of like seeing his face go, "Oh fuck, what do I do now? This wasn't supposed to happen." Look, if you do yourself a go ahead and look up the Cybertruck window fail in the future,
hmm,
God, you'll get a good laugh out of that. Like, keep in mind, I just love laughing at Elon Musk, uh, just himself. Just because the dude's a funny guy for me to just react to.
right,
I do not take him seriously for a second. Um,
yeah,
but like watching that just made my entire day.
hmm,
And so
no,
after doing that, like I remember the PR out of it, and it's like apparently he hadn't coordinated with the engineers and the sales team engineers and him had not been on the same page. So
oh
they didn't,
boy,
to what I know, at least to what the reports say, they didn't know he was going to be testing the windows. So they
right,
just had the floor model, the display model, and everything.
hmm,
But he he does get the go ahead to throw the steel ball, or I guess he does it himself, and then suddenly
right,
shatter. And that's where it comes into PR, where everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has
right,
to like be in communication with everything. You
hmm,
cannot just go into something and be like, "Hey, this is this," and I'm just like, "Oh my god."
yeah. No, you touched upon a pretty good point. It's like it's pretty clear that they were like there was like no real good communication because like when you do these kind of things, there has to be like a unified voice for everything to work. Because like imagine if you were to like let's say like actually this happened to me once. Like imagine
Right.
you were to go up to like a presentation, right? And like just one of the slides wasn't there. like it was supposed to be like a figure of like your like annual revenue or some shit like that, and it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
not
yeah.
there, and you have
Yeah.
like no way to prove it. That's essentially what he did, right? It's like it boggles my mind how like he like thought it would just be like it would all just work out if there's like no like real communication. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. As someone who's had a presentation missing slides before because
Mm-hmm.
someone didn't put in their work,
Mm-hmm.
it is very hard to recover from when you think you're gonna have information on one thing and then suddenly you get nothing.
Right.
So yeah, I am 100% behind you on that. But anyway, like it was just a really funny thing, and I'm just like, it was just funny PR. I don't know if people are going to be legitimately buying the Cybertruck. I'm not a huge Tesla fan for different reasons and other stuff.
Yeah.
That's just my own personal thing. They look nice, but that's about where it stops for me. But yeah, like it was just like an example of just bad, really bad PR.
Honestly, yeah. And like to kind of go back to your point about like how it looks like a kid drew it, like I would say the memes that came out of the Cybertruck were really good.
Oh
Like
yeah.
everyone photoshopping them into like GTA, like San Andreas and shit like that. Like I just thought that was hilarious.
Oh,
Like
I'm
that was the best
pretty
thing.
sure there's a Cybertruck mod somewhere out there
Oh,
for
yeah, for sure.
GTA.
Absolutely. Could
But
you imagine if like in Cyberpunk 2077, Keanu Reeves like pulls up in a Cybertruck? Like,
if Tesla just gives Cyberpunk the Cybertruck for
yeah.
free to put it in, don't even have them pay for it to license it or anything. Just
Hmm.
gives it to them to be like, hey, you can put this in your game.
Yeah.
I would say both companies should be on that. And
No, honestly, yeah, it would be great advertising for Tesla
you know
for the
what?
Cybertruck being
You
Cyberpunk.
know what? Even better, even better. I'm gonna give them this idea for free. I'm gonna give it to them
Okay,
for free.
right,
They don't charge anyone for it. They like Tesla gives it to them for free because
right,
Tesla can afford to do that,
yeah.
and Cyberpunk makes it a pre-order bonus.
Mm, I see. That's
So
a
that
pretty
way,
good
people
idea,
don't have to
actually.
pay to have it. People don't have to pay to have it. They just if they pre-order it, they can get it.
Right, right. No, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty good actually, because like, there's obviously people that are like gonna pre-order anyways. So like, even
Yeah,
if they don't like necessarily want to pre-order because of the Cybertruck, they're still gonna get it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a
So
pretty
it's
solid
like,
idea.
yeah. I'm personally a fan of pre-order bonuses. Why not?
Right,
Um, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Not going to dive
right.
down that rabbit hole either. We are dodging a lot of rabbit holes today.
Oh yeah.
All right, but you had another one then, and again, you pick some great ones compared to the ones I have.
No, I think yours are good, but anyways, this next one I want to talk about is also on the same theme of like company does bad thing and they get absolutely fucked.
All right.
So the one I'm talking about is this North Face story. So here's
Yeah,
what I'm going to talk about next.
yeah. When you
So
first told me about this, I was like, I cannot believe they decided to do something like this. Like, I'll tell them this. This took some balls to do. I'll give them that much
right,
credit.
absolutely right. But to kind of get into it, so the North Face basically did this thing, right, where like they actually went on to Wikipedia pages of like famous like tourist locations, right, and they replaced the stock images that are usually on those Wikipedia pages and replaced them with their own placement shots that they use for their own advertisements. So if they went to like Machu Picchu or some shit like that, they would replace it with their own like product shot of like if someone wearing North Face in front of Machu Picchu.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that in and of itself was bad, right? So,
Right,
but here's the
right,
thing, right? Is not only did they do that, they made a video highlighting the fact that they did this. And they were talking about like, oh, we usually when people talk about like going somewhere, they first check out the Wikipedia of it, see like,
right.
what's
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
whatever. And they made a whole video about this, like
Right,
basically talking about how they replaced all these images with North Face designs
right, right.
inside of them. And uh they try to like cover their ass afterwards because due to like the fact that like, hey, this is really fucked up. Like that's exactly why people like don't like Wikipedia for some reason is because like there's it's to a certain extent Wikipedia can be pretty easy to manipulate without like the proper like moderation.
Right.
So
But
so that obviously was a big like red flag. Also, because like not only does this bring down North Face, but in a certain way it gives credence to this like unfounded idea that Wikipedia is inherently like untrustworthy. Um,
I
so
mean,
that to me was like it was like a double edged sword, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like
No, no, I
yeah,
get what you're saying. Like Wikipedia kind of got dragged into it, even though
yeah,
it wasn't really their fault.
exactly.
So to
But
clarify, clarifying something, I will say this took balls to do,
mhm.
but that doesn't mean it was okay at all. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also to add another thing, they tried to advertise this as a Wikipedia collaboration when they at no point really let Wikipedia know that they were gonna do this.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I highly doubt Wikipedia was gonna even say yes to it anyways, because the whole point of Wikipedia is that it's very much, user centric and like
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
people like
So, for those who don't know, Wikipedia is non-profit.
hmm
They rely solely off of donations.
exactly.
They have no ad revenue because if you think about it, like when you go to Wikipedia, there are no ads for anything. Everything
hmm
is user generated content, moderator generated content, and like that is pretty much it.
hmm
They have no ads. They are not really a search engine. They're an encyclopedia. That's what they are.
hmm
And they have it in tons and tons of languages, but they do not make any business deal with anyone. Like as far as I've
Right.
seen, they have nothing. The closest thing they get is that they'll maybe become a search engine for people, if even.
hmm Right. Right. But here's the kind of thing that I think was so beautiful. So obviously, Wikipedia has a pretty active user base,
Right.
and also moderation. So obviously, people looked in this, the people who are in charge of these pages were like, yeah, that's not gonna fly under us, and they changed it back to original photos. But
Right.
some people did something really great, where instead of taking down the photos that they put on there, they actually kept the photos up there, but they removed the North Face logo off of the picture,
See,
so
that
that
that's
like
really cool. That's kind of like in a way that's kind of like I don't want to say fan base, but I guess users. I guess that's the best way to put it. I don't really know what to put it because
it's
I don't
like
know how to say that. Like
contributors, I would
yeah,
say
I
is
guess
like the best way to
contributors
put it.
sort of defended Wikipedia in that sense.
Yeah. So
So I
like
mean, good on them, really. Like that's the
yeah,
best I can say about it.
I really like the idea of like removing the North Face logo from these product placement shots because not only does it like sort of like because like obviously the places that they put in there like the placement shots are still of the places that they're
Right?
advertising,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at the same time by removing the North Face logo you kind of take away all of that power that the North Face had
Right. Yeah. No. No.
anyway.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially because the logos on their jackets and stuff are not going to be very noticeable. But I mean, like, just also the fact that they went above and beyond and just edited the stuff out was like, I
hmm
feel like that's just a little extra salt in the wound of North Face, and that kind of protects Wikipedia a little bit too, because it
hmm
shows, hey, anyone can edit it, but anyone can also help it.
yeah.
And I mean, it's like this isn't the first time Wikipedia has had things changed. There have been memes of people and other things that have been changed through Wikipedia.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, like kind of going off of that. Like I've seen
yeah,
plenty of like people like edit Wikipedia pages like in response to like an event or something like that, like or like a sports game. Someone has like a really bad game, and
yeah,
like they'll say like, "Oh, so and so player has been a player for like the Milwaukee Bucks for like 10 years, but they tragically disappeared during the playoff game against the Miami Heat or some shit like that."
yeah,
Like
yeah,
stuff like that is like really
yeah.
funny, but at the
Or
same time, yeah, it's harmful in a way.
yeah, I mean, whether or not it's harmful sometimes is debatable. It just kind of depends on how people run with it. But
Yeah.
I've seen it for fictional characters too. Like one of the biggest memes you've ever seen is Lucina, and
Mm.
how at one point someone on Wikipedia changed it so that she killed Peppa Pig or something like that, or was a rival or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
entirely
yeah.
remember the meme, but that was a thing on Wikipedia for like a day. What baffles my mind though is that like, what baffles my mind is that like, how long would it have been if North Face didn't say anything?
Yeah.
Like
Like
how
it,
long
like
could they have gotten away with it had they not said anything?
so I don't know. I feel like wouldn't be that long. I feel like because like I said, it's like they did it with pretty famous places. You know what I mean? So like I
I
feel
mean,
like
but
there's
like,
obviously
okay,
like
so let me try and understand this. Was the logo obviously shown, or was it that
no, it's
it was
more
like
like
very
it was
subtle on the
very
clip?
like no, it's like it's part of the picture, but it's usually very discreet.
Okay, okay. Because it's like obviously had they not made the doc and released it, I would have given it. Let's say I would have said probably at least a week before people noticed. Really.
I mean, but the thing is like for like here's the thing, right? Is like Wikipedia, you can see like who's making the edits and like what they're changing. So if they see like this one account changing like all these like and it's like the same edit, like replacing photos and it's from the same account, like I feel like they would kind of take wind of that. It's all like North Face branded like
Yeah.
clothing is
Well, I
and all of that.
mean,
I think
I don't know. Like we've seen like if you've been on the Wikipedia page and looked at who edited or when it was last edited, it says like anonymous edited it at this time.
hmm,
So they probably would have been a little bit harder for them.
right.
But who knows? I mean, it's like I'm gonna say unfortunately Wikipedia was a victim is in this, but they're
Right.
fine. Obviously, North Face is fine. It was just a dumb PR move.
Right.
I don't know. Like for me, I'm just like, oh god. So I got another one.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we did good old Musk, I got something diving back into our roots of video games and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is one that like I'm looking at this and I rewatched the video and I just kept thinking to myself, why who let this person speak? How much damage control had to be done? So, we know Blizzard is nothing new to controversy.
Right.
I'm gonna let that sentence sink in for a sec. Now, picture this: 2018, before their bigger controversies. Imagine that you're someone waiting for a new game in a new series, and it's been a little while since it's gotten an update and everything. And then they tease for weeks that a new game is coming out in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Only for them to suddenly come out and say, "Hey, this isn't a main series game. It's a mobile game." Well, that's exactly what happened with Diablo Immortal. So they were hyping up this game for weeks. Like it was just little teases here and there, getting people really interested. Then they suddenly come out and say it's a mobile game.
Right.
So that's not inherently bad in itself. For as much as internet hates that raw internet, whatever. That's not inherently bad.
Right.
Because they
right.
never said it was a mainline game. They just hinted that a new game was coming. It happens all the time, really.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But this is where they mess up. So obviously they do it in front of a live crowd and everything. This is at not E3, BlizzCon. And so obviously the crowd is not happy. They're booing this. They're just like, or there's some silent shock at first and stuff. You can go ahead and watch the video. Makes it a lot easier. And then the guy on stage, I forget his name off the top of my head. He goes back, and his response to the crowd is, "What? Doesn't everyone have a smartphone?" And I'm just like, no. Why? It's like, have you ever seen a train crash in slow motion?
Right.
That's essentially what it was. Looking at that as like a PR thing.
No, exactly.
And gamers being gamers and the internet being internet, everyone just lost their mind and just like he was booed off stage. Like I don't think he even finished his explanation. And then like I think a week later, Blizzard had to formally apologize for everything. And
Right.
it was a mess from that response.
Yeah, because I remember watching a video and like this other guy was actually like fielding some questions. He was like doing a pretty good job of like maintaining like the very corporate like sort of like vibe and like actually like responding with like kind
Yeah.
of half answers and half truths, which is like it. I mean, yeah, that's not like really being transparent, but at the same time, it's better than like saying like accusing people of like that's essentially being like too cheap or like being not being
Right.
invested enough in the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, but like for me, that response, like the guy who said like, "Hey, you guys aren't really doing. Do you guys not have phones?" That for me is like the real PR like mess, you know,
Right.
like
Right. Like, and this is where it kind of comes down to like breaking it down just a little bit. Obviously, that was not a planned response. That was obviously like a hairpin reaction.
right,
Where he probably wasn't expecting to get booed or anything. He wasn't expecting people to kind of like not respond and stuff like that.
right,
But that's where you, as a professional, and you have to like talk with PR and stuff. Hey, if something goes wrong, don't do this.
right,
And so like that's essentially exactly what he did. He just like he chose the like one of the worst possible responses he could have picked.
yeah,
And as much as I would love to say that like as much as I would love to say, hey, you can defend the guy, the guy is human and everything. It's like you are not just you when you're on that stage. You are representing the company who's working on that stuff. You're representing so much more.
no,
So
exactly. But like,
you can't just have hairpin reactions. Like had he taken like I would have said given him 30 seconds, think it through, respond, would have been way different. Internet and people would have been mad. Maybe I would have said for like a week,
exactly,
but then afterwards it would have chilled. It would have cooled down.
yeah,
And you want to know who was in a similar situation? I would say, but it was handled better. But maybe because it was online versus in person. I'll preface it with that. It was the Pokemon and Tencent collab that they're doing for what is it called? That it's essentially League of Legends with Pokemon.
yeah.
I forget what it's called off the top of my head.
It's
But
it's Pokemon Unite.
yeah, thank you, Pokemon Unite. People were annoyed at it and were saying it didn't need its own like announcement and like time selected and stuff.
Yeah,
And whether or not how much Tencent had influence on that, that's neither here nor there. Not really going to get into that too much. But like people were annoyed, I would say, not super angry, but more annoyed for about a week, and then they kind of just eased away from it. So like I would have said had essentially no response or like a quickly thought out response would have been way better for Blizzard at that time than it would have been for like anything else.
yeah.
So it's like I don't know. It's like there are lessons to be learned here about this.
No, yeah, and like honestly, like a lot of things that we're talking about here are like good ways of like learning about like what not to do. You know what I mean? Like these are like
Yeah,
the things
yeah,
like and like for example, like you were talking earlier about I was talking earlier about the classes we took. Like this is literally what we did is like we literally had to explain like why this shit was like bad, and like you could take any of these and say like okay, like here's what not to do. You know?
right, right.
So
And for you and me, it's like it's not just about the class we took. Like that, I'm not saying we suddenly know more about everyone than anything
no,
else.
of course
We
not.
have an
No, no.
understanding now, but it's
Yeah,
also on top of the class we took, like with our entire majors and how we've studied it. It's like we have to see the impacts of how that goes, and then like on top of that with social media. But again, we could do an entire episode on stuff like that. But it's like
right.
just doing a little bit of thinking and a little bit of research, you could have seen how this could have gone so much better.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, with that, I was just like, again, Blizzard formally apologized. There wasn't really like any bad fallout, but I mean, the dude got memed to hell. I will say that.
Yeah. No, seriously.
So, I mean, I don't know. Like, that was just an example of like, it wasn't horrible. Again, Blizzard has done far worse, but
Right.
it definitely was something that could have been avoided.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, but you got another one for us?
Yeah, I actually do have another story. So yeah, actually, this one actually is actually from a campaign, from a state funded campaign.
Yeah, this
So,
is okay. This is by far my favorite one.
right. So, the state of South Dakota, actually this is a bit of a serious topic, but actually South Dakota has like a kind of a problem with meth.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
um, but
This is a serious
anyway,
problem,
that's
not
not really the
meant to be.
point. So the campaign they launched was like supposed to be like essentially like talking about like how they like we're gonna tackle this. They had like a bunch of like youth support and like
Yeah,
all this stuff, but
yeah.
none of that really mattered when people could not get past the slogan of the campaign. And this is what this is what the campaign was called: meth. We're on it.
I loved this one so much when I heard it because we actually, I think we had to study it as it was happening, and like at the time it was happening, like in live time is
Wow.
this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what like I was like that was one of the reports I had to study because that's something I was doing with PR at the time.
Hmm.
But what's really interesting is that the people who came up with the slogan didn't reveal whether or not they did it on purpose, and you can take that as you want. That could say a lot of things,
Yeah, yeah.
but it kind of it's a little split across the board of like, did they do this on purpose or did they do this not really knowing how it would sound?
Okay, so just to kind of get further into it, so
Yeah,
they did that, right? And then obviously, like every PR professional just slammed them. Like no one was saying that this was a good thing.
right.
But the people who came up with this realized that hey, people are actually starting to talk about this a bit more. So they
Right.
actually propped it up as if though they meant to do it. So that's kind of answering your question. Like the people
Yeah.
who came
Okay.
up with this, they actually after seeing like sort of like the I guess what you could call like positive surge of people talking about meth, they saw that as like okay, yeah, we actually meant to do this.
Yeah. This
And
is. I feel like this is one of those examples of like people would point to of there's no such thing as bad PR. There
yeah,
is. There really is.
no, there
But
is because like while the professionals themselves they came over to say like oh yeah we did it on purpose and because like you can tell like how good of a impact this is having on people talking about meth and as a whole. The thing is right this actually what they know what other professionals are saying is that this is actually kind of like alienating the residents of South Dakota because now this campaign actually sort of like popularized the idea that everyone in South Dakota is doing meth. So that's the bad thing about it. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people are
So
talking more about meth, right? In sort of
yeah,
like the way of like how can we like tackle this, but at the same time, like the residents of South Dakota aren't happy about it because now everyone thinks like people from South Dakota do meth.
this is probably like I want to say the most controversial we'll get with some of these PR stunts we're looking at.
Right.
But like looking at it, the reason I love this so much is because it feels so self-aware about itself when it
Mm,
says it.
right.
And like, I'm not saying it was good, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying it was extremely self-aware with how it carried itself.
Hmm.
And when I saw it, I really thought it was funny. That's not to say that I think everyone in South Dakota is on meth. That's not
No,
to
no.
say like that makes the problem of meth any lighter. It's just like it felt they were very aware of how they were doing this. And then, the fallout of that, it was just like it was just something of I don't even want to call it fallout. I want to just say it was just a discussion that arose from it.
Right.
So I mean like it's just I don't know how really to put it. Like this to me, it became good PR and it's bad PR at the same time. Sometimes PR can be both.
No, I'd say yeah.
So I don't. Do you know if like anything followed up on that? Like if they got more donations on like helping people with meth problems, or if anything else occurred from that?
No, they basically are just saying it was a good thing because like I said before, like more people are talking about the issue. But like I said also, like the people of South Dakota were not happy about it because like I said, it's
Yeah,
starting to like build this stereotype.
I
So
think this
yeah.
was like a state funded. If
No,
remind
yeah.
me, it was like a state funded like slogan too.
No, yeah, the state basically paid an ad agency like basically $500 to make up this campaign. $500,000, I should say. Sorry.
500,000. Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. I was gonna say if they paid $500, that makes more sense of like how they
Mm-mm,
got it.
no.
But no, yeah, 500,000. Wow. So
Yeah.
like no lawsuit against the ad agency or anything, or like no
No,
one
I don't think no.
apologizing.
No, as far as I'm concerned, no. No.
Okay.
None of that.
Okay. I mean, like again, it's good and bad PR. Again, to me, I still like it because it's extremely self-aware. And
Right.
there were people at the time who were saying it was like really funny. Some South Dakota residents I remember they interviewed were like, "Yeah, it's like they like so obviously some people were mad, but they were just like, it is what it be. Essentially, is like how some of the
Yeah.
that's the best way to summarize how some of the responses were.
Right, yeah.
So I mean, obviously, there's always going to be someone upset or someone like who doesn't like it, but I don't know. It was just at the time, it was like to me one of those. It was essentially almost a banger tweet to me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And maybe that's the idea they were going for. Like they were just trying to make their slogan like a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
But moving away from like I guess our closest controversy question mark.
Mm. Right.
So this is one that was just like this is the not nuclear but next to nuclear thing you can do to yourself as a bad move in PR.
Right.
So let me give you a little bit of backstory on what I'm talking about. This is so there's a company called G2A. It is essentially a website where you can resell digital games to different people. It's like essentially it's like eBay but for digital products, like
Mm-hmm.
pure digital stuff. So they were selling a bunch of video games there. Like that's their main market, video games and stuff like that, where people could go and resell them. However, there were a bunch of stolen Steam keys being sold on there.
Mm.
And the thing was, G2A was not punishing anyone. They were not doing anything. They were just allowing stolen Steam keys to be sold right there on their shop.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there were companies that were calling them out, and they were being like, "Hey, why are you allowing these stolen games to be sold on your shop?" And so, what do you think? What do you think is one of the worst responses you could give in this situation?
Blame the users.
You almost hit the nail exactly on the head there, because they didn't so much blame the user selling it. They blamed the companies for allowing their games to be stolen and
Oh
saying
my
that they were not
God.
responsible what people did with the games and how they did it.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, it was really bad to where like creators of their games and stuff who were having their things stolen literally told their fan base, "I would rather you pirate the game than buy it from G2A."
Wow.
Yeah, it was just that bad. And I'm like, you can't be this stupid.
No, yeah.
And what made matters worse is that in the first couple months this was happening, they didn't just say that, they doubled down on it.
Oh no. See, that's the thing, right? It's like that's the worst part about it. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like usually, okay, this is what happens with PR. Like this is in a cycle. If you have a bad PR, you acknowledge it, you apologize for it, and you just keep moving forward. Like you do not
Right.
dwell on it when you have bad
Right.
PR. At
Exactly.
least
Yeah.
in most cases, obviously it depends on severity and everything, but with that, like they were like they like when companies still kept calling them out on it, and they're like, well, protect your games better, or like, we're not responsible for any of this, none of these games are even stolen. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
why? And G2A has not lost this infamy whatsoever. Like they haven't shaken this, I guess, their now brand of selling stolen video games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, you can't be this stupid. You cannot possibly like passively be this stupid. You have to actively do this. So for me, when I was looking at it, I'm just like, why? Why?
Hmm.
There's no reason for it.
No, it's like if you didn't want me to steal your fries, you shouldn't have had the plate so close to my hands. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it, it's that line of thinking. It's like 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 obviously you can't control everyone, right? But you can have like a certain level of like quality control and like guidelines for like what gets posted on there.
yeah,
So it boggles my mind that they really thought that they were not responsible for like what happens on their platform, and like to think that like somehow it's the company's fault for making it easy to like steal games or like
yeah,
to sell like games like in a like a illicit way. Like that's just crazy to me.
yeah. No, and it's even worse to the fact that they just said that like they didn't even believe that there were stolen games on their shop, and then it was later proven that they actually knew about it. But okay, here's the follow up to that because it doesn't end there. It does not
Right.
end there for a second.
Right.
So, following that, they were like, they released another PR once it was proven and they got like called out, showing that there were actually people stealing games on there, thanks to Reddit, because Reddit actually showed them like there were some users on Reddit who showed, hey, these people are selling stolen Steam keys. And you can
Hmm.
buy them at a reduced price. They were like selling them for 30, $40 as opposed to, buying a $60 game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then G2A finally admitted, okay, there may be some stolen games on there. That's essentially how their tone sounded. And they're like, we might do something about it. It's like, we're going to investigate and potentially do something about it. So, it's like the fact that you got proven you lied, and then the fact that you said you might do something is still just horrible.
Right.
And then finally, they released a statement saying, okay, any company that has been affected by this, we will pay them out for the amount lost. They're not
Oh.
saying they're going to take down the games. They're not saying they're going to punish the thieves. Nothing. They just said
Mm.
they'll pay for like the amount of money lost.
Right.
And so it's like that doesn't solve the problem though.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like, it's fine if you reimburse them for the money that they lost, but it's not changing the fact that people are gonna still sell Steam keys later on the line, and they're still gonna still be losing money. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So it's like, and the thing was, it's like many companies couldn't even go through it because going through the court case, and then they would have to spend more money on like suing G2A than it would be
Right.
for the money they actually lose and stuff.
Exactly.
So they were in this like really catch 22 until there was like I want to say a smaller company who actually followed up on G2A. It was like they were like, okay, sure, pay us back. And so
Hmm.
G2A kind of gets left in this position of, oh shit, we actually have to pay them back.
They weren't planning on doing it, were they?
No, 100% I doubt they were planning on doing it. But what you do see is like they paid him back. It was like 400,000. I could be wrong on the number there.
Right.
But it was definitely quite a bit of money they paid back to that company for how much
Yeah,
revenue was lost because of the
especially for a
stolen
smaller
games.
company. Yeah, that definitely.
And so like clearly G2A was not ready for that, but then it's like now that that company did that, it looks like some bigger companies are setting in motion to claim their money back. And
Oh
it's like
boy.
G2A finally sort of apologized, but they still haven't done anything.
Right, because like it's one thing to just like it's really an empty gesture. It's like those like apology like things you see on Twitter from any company, right? Like we're sorry, we're going to listen, all that nonsense. But the thing is, like, people don't want to hear about you talking about listening. Like, yes, it is good to have communication between you and your user base, but like, what are you actually going to do? Like, what are the concrete steps to like actually fixing the problem, as opposed to just apologizing? For me personally, that to me is the key because you can apologize all you want, but if you're not actually looking to actively solve the problem, you might as well have not said anything. For me
Right,
personally,
yeah. Honestly, silence would have been better at this point than what they
yeah,
said. And I'm like,
exactly.
I don't understand why you're blaming the companies for this. Like, there's just And at this point, I was like, it wasn't even just like their PR person saying this, which we see in most cases. This was like
Hmm.
their CEOs and higher ups who were saying this.
Oh no, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one level if your PR person is saying it, because companies can argue, as much as I hate this, companies can argue, oh, this person was speaking on their own, they do not represent the company. But
Yeah.
but if it's their CEOs and head people, that's literally the company.
Right. Yeah. No, there's no getting around that. Like literally, the face of the company is saying you shouldn't have like made it so easy to steal games from your website. It's like it boggles the mind.
It's just like, honestly, I feel sorry for the PR person, because the PR person never even like responded officially. Like, how
Mm,
like there's the person who speaks on behalf of the company and everything.
right.
This was just like, these were the exchanges straight from the what's it called, the CEOs and like COOs and stuff themselves. Like, this was like them tweeting out, this was them responding in interviews and stuff like that, this was them responding on Reddit. So the
Hmm.
PR person didn't even get a chance to be
Right.
like, hey, maybe don't say this.
Right. No, because at that point they're just acting of their own accord and just
Yeah,
being shitty
right,
people.
exactly. And there, that kind of goes back to the whole hairpin trigger thing I told you about earlier,
Hmm.
of like, you have to screen what you're going to say or think about what you're going to say.
Exactly.
Silence is not the best response, but
Hmm.
it's an okay response to buy yourself time to think. But obviously that
Exactly.
time will run out. But it doesn't even feel like they really thought of anything.
Right. It seems like to me like it was just an impulse decision to say, "Hey, we're not at fault here." Which, when in reality is like people would have been more understanding if they had taken like a week or so to like actually think about what they wanted to say about this and have
Right.
like a well constructed response.
And the fact that they still have not like gone against like the people selling and stuff, or I think there was like a small wipe of people they took
Hmm.
out who were selling illegal stuff.
Yeah.
The fact that they just didn't do that from the beginning is mind-boggling to me, because obviously if people are selling like stolen things, even if you don't believe they're stolen, at least go through the matter of screening them and being like, okay, you're a legit seller.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to me at all.
Right.
It really doesn't. So bad PR is bad PR, man.
Yeah. But on that note, do we want to talk about some cases of good PR just to round out the
Yeah,
episode?
all right, balance it out. Let's do some one that's I'm gonna say that bounced back nicely.
Right.
So a couple years ago, we had one of the most hyped games ever that was from a small company who promised a lot in a video game they were delivering.
Hmm.
And for those who don't know, and like, this is a interesting story in itself. Back in 2016, excuse me, not 2018, No
Hmm.
Man's Sky came out.
Right.
Now, the developers of the game had promised a lot with this game. They had said it was going to be the biggest open world game ever,
Hmm.
that you were going to be able to play with your friends online at the same time, that like there was going to be like infinite generation map and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then, people are super hyped. They really built up the hype on this game. And then No Man's Sky comes out. It comes out a pretty glitchy. It's not game breaking glitchy. It's just first day glitches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People find that there is no multiplayer,
Hmm.
and then finally, there's also like they found out real quick. They found out real quick that there was like the map was far smaller than had been promised.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at this, and it's like it is one of the worst. It is like one of the worst PR events like you could imagine. It was just nothing but a fire on top of a fire for PR. because the company went silent, I think, for a couple months after that.
Yeah.
And then, following that, it's like they were not responding to anyone. People were asking questions. Obviously, people were demanding refunds, all that stuff. But no one was saying anything. So I don't know what was going on through their minds. And then, after a while, they started releasing some slow updates and were like, "Hey, we're sorry for not talking. We were essentially like they were like we were revamping the game. We were looking at what we needed to address." And then they come out and say like, "We were not ready on game day launch. We're sorry. We thought we were. And here are some slow updates we're going to be rolling out. We hope you like it."
Yeah.
And so like this was not like changed in a few months. This has been done over the years of like rolling out new features and like fixing things up.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, so it's like they kept addressing the problems little by little, where they were like, "Hey, we finally have the multiplayer feature we talked about," or "Hey, we fixed this bug right here," or "Hey, we've added this little addition and events right here. We hope you guys like it. And again, we're sorry, but maybe we fix it and move on."
Mm-hmm.
And so like the game has recovered significantly well, because out of the money it lost at the very beginning, it is now a stable, substantial game. I haven't played it myself because I remember at the time that like it was super hyped that people were buying consoles just to play it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, for me, I was like, I was very interested, but at the time I couldn't afford it. And then I started hearing the reviews about it, and I was like, I don't need this game anymore. And so, from going from a game that was like no one wanted to touch to suddenly being a game that like people were okay with, that's a decent recovery in terms of PR.
No, seriously, yeah. Like, I think the game has like a much bigger, like, active user base. Like the game actually looks a lot and plays a lot like what they were advertising at the beginning.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've seen a bunch of videos actually highlighting the rise of how they actually kind of grew out of the issues that they had at the beginning. And I think, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that a lot because like, it shows really that like the problem for them wasn't really their ability to actually make the game that they wanted. It was the fact that they were just so pressed for time. Because if I remember correctly, it was going to be like published by like I don't know. I think something like they had like a deal with Sony or something like that. They were like going to present it with
Yeah.
Sony, right?
Yeah. So it released in 2016 as a PC and PlayStation exclusive. Microsoft did not have it until 2018. And so like they were bringing it out, and essentially what a lot of people have said is that they promised too much. They really could have done like less. They could have said, "Hey, we kind of want to delay the game. We know you guys have been waiting for it, but can you give us like a month or two more and we can add everything we want?"
Yeah.
Or they were just like, or they could have been like, "Hey, there are some problems. We're going to release this. It's not everything we wanted to give you, but we're hoping you guys still like it. We promise that it'll get better over time." That's how people have said, but they promised too much from a small company, and and they paid for it. Really, they really did.
No, honestly, yeah.
But I mean, after that, really, like you see them do that, and then you see them then like I think the worst thing they did, at least in my opinion, was that they had that like month or two of silence. Like no one was saying anything. Which really says a lot without saying anything. It's like that's when I feel like they were like completely freaking out and had no response whatsoever. But at the same time, to reiterate something we've been saying and like has been the message of this, they took the time to think about how they would respond. They may have waited a little too long, but they did think.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I think that was good on them. And we've seen now that they've had like it still doesn't have the best reviews, but it has a decent fan base and is considered a good game. So I'd say good on them for recovering that game.
No, yeah, seriously, and like that's one of the like nice stories of like how to do PR well, because like like you were saying, like I would much rather wait for them to actually think about what they're saying than to just rush out and like make the situation worse.
Right, right. And they worked along with the fan base too,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
was really good. So I say like give them credit where credit is due. They recovered nicely. It could have been better. But, No Man's Sky at least made a comeback.
exactly. And that's the kind of comeback story we all need in our life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a good place to wrap up on that kind of a feel-good-ish story.
Yeah.
But thank you, Javi, so much for joining me today as we look through all these PR things. And boy, was that
Cool.
quite a bit. And that's like not even scratching the surface of everything.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will catch you guys. Who knows when? It's unscheduled. So have a good one, everyone. Hope to
See
hear
ya.
from you soon. Bye.
All right.